What's going on, everybody? Today, talking about Doc. And I've got some helpful insights, some tips and tricks. He's my first operator that I got to level 10, and he's one that I find myself wanting to gravitate back towards quite a bit. And I found him to be extremely useful in both solo and in squad play. Doc's a chunky boy. Heavy armor, slow movement speed, but the health shots make up for everything. And in terms of speed in this game, I would rather have more armor than speed. Speed is useful for certain objectives, but I think survivability is more important than how fast you can run. And speaking of survivability, because Doc's health shots are, in my opinion, one of the most universally useful gadgets in the entire game. Doc is so good, whether you are playing by yourself or playing with friends, because his health shots can overheal, they can revive at a distance, and they're just superior. Especially fully leveled, they are extremely good. Doc is, hands down, to me, one of my favorite operators, and I think he's going to be one of the most useful in a stack, because he's so universal. He's so just useful in all situations. And he has a good arsenal. You can't argue with the guns he has. I think the P90 and the 417 are my two favorites, because the P90 gives you tons of firepower in a small package, and it's easy to manage its recoil, and the 417 is just a ton of firepower. It is super, super useful in this. Now, I play most of the game solo. I enjoy the solo experience. I enjoy playing with friends. And I've used Doc in multiple scenarios, solo and with friends. And he's just good. When I'm playing by myself, I'm allowed to give myself that extra little bit. You know what I'm saying? If I get hit too hard, or if I'm doing an objective that I'm a little bit worried about, I can give myself a small health boost, or just max out my health boost to prepare myself for the coming fight. He can also revive himself if he has health shots. He can pick himself back up, making Doc just insanely good for solo play. Of the operators I've used so far, he's one of the best in terms of playing by yourself. In a team, he's also super good. There's something about, the fact that I don't have to run across a room to go revive my friend, or if they're feeling a little hurt because, maybe a grunt got the jump on him and got a couple of free hits, you can make sure that their health doesn't dip below where it's at. You can overheal them and try to keep them in the fight as long as possible. Now, so far for me, Doc is a solid S tier operator in Extraction. His weapons are all good, and his ability is just so universal. It's hard to argue with such a well-rounded operator, and I'm really glad that he's legitimately the first operator on the list of operators, because he is fun to play with. He's just so useful. Now, granted, if you're a well-rounded player, there's times where you might not even have to use his ability at all, and that's fine. It's there if you need it, and that's the best part. An operator doesn't need to crutch on their ability. Now, granted, when I was playing with friends, I found myself using the ability more because I wanted to increase our odds of completing a mission. Now, when you play by yourself, of course, you start with 50% overheal, and, well, you don't have to share supplies with anybody. But with Doc, he's allowed, he can keep himself in the fight a little bit longer. It's like, hey, I found a med kit. Well, I'll just hit myself with an overheal real quick. You guys grab the med kit. And he's just, he lends himself really well to team play. You also could be a real selfish jerk with the Doc and just completely keep his healing shots for yourself if you wanted to be that person. But I think a good Doc player on a solid team with good communication, because when I use Doc, there's an aspect of having to yell at your teammates to ask them to stop moving, because there's been times where I've pulled out my health shots, went to go take a shot, and then missed one. They're kind of a precious commodity sometimes. And, well, a precious commodity in the sense that, you might not get lucky and find ability recharges, but if your teammates are using operators that don't require ability recharges, Doc can be crazy good because you can just be firing those things off left and right sometimes. And I just find, using Doc to be refreshing. I typically don't take the sort of healer medic role, but because Doc has such good weaponry, he's a heavy armor operator, which is who I like to gravitate towards, and he's just good. Plus, his level 10 mastery skin looks great. I think he looks fantastic. And he just lends to a good survivable playstyle. Now, are there any changes I would like to make to Doc? Really, off the top of my head, I can only think of one of them, and I would like to be able to use his healing shot to remove the blind spores. Because currently, I have not found any way, and I don't think there's any way, as a solo player to remove blind spores from yourself if you get them on you. And I would like to have Doc be able to have that capacity to use my health shot to remove blind spores. I think it would be a really powerful upgrade, in good honesty, because I think Doc is already perfectly well-rounded. If you guys haven't picked that up by now, I think he's an extremely well-rounded and well-put-together operator. I don't think there's anything really you could change with him. As I said, he has amazing weapons and a universally amazing ability. It's hard to think of any way to make it better. So that is the only, off the top of my head, the only change I think that they can make to him. I think it would be very helpful, and it would alleviate some frustration, because there's times, let's face it, there's times where we just kind of charge in and get stuck with blind spores, and then you just have to kind of sit there for a second. And they're frustrating, not the worst thing in the world, and they don't hurt you very much, but they're just annoying. And now, because Doc is so just universally good, I don't have any operators I could recommend to help, kind of get a good synergy going, because he just vibes with everybody. He's got his ability just works with everything. It's not a situational ability, it just works. It's there. You can use it whenever you want and whenever you need to, on yourself or your friends. It doesn't matter. Doc is just universal. So he fits into any team dynamic I've had him on, and he performs. He performs every single time. The only thing you have to get used to is he's slow. He does receive a speed boost at some point, but you have to understand you're not using him for speed. It gives you a little something, and it's noticeable. It's 15%, and you got a little bit more movement speed, but that's not why I use Doc. If I want to use a faster operator, I'll use a faster operator. So, in terms of all of that, just use them. Just use them. You know what I'm saying? If you're playing online with randoms, I don't think any of them are going to complain that you've picked Doc, because he's good. He's good. Survivability. You can't argue with survivability. And I think in terms of the Maelstrom, I think he's going to be a hot pick whenever he's in rotation, because of survivability and being able to keep your team in the fight longer. So in the end, you're left with a solid, well-rounded operator that just works. You know what I mean? There's no fluff. There's nothing fancy. You know what you're getting. And Doc doesn't need to synergize with other operators to make his ability useful. It is always useful. And that, to me, is the hallmark of an S-tier operator, is having an ability that is always useful. You can have good weapons, and all of his weapons are good. I don't think any one of his weapons are bad. So that puts Doc as an S-tier operator. Now make sure to stay tuned, though, because Ella's coming up next. And I've had some sort of mixed results and mixed feelings about Ella. I know the community might come for me on this one, because I know Ella's a pretty much universally beloved character in the Rainbow Six Siege community. But in Extraction, she's kind of weird. And if you have any unique tips for Doc that maybe I don't know about, let me know in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear them. Make sure to leave a like, a dislike, comment, and subscribe for more if you're not already subscribed. As always, hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to catch you in the next video.